We're back. I'll just give it a few minutes, see if some people come in. Take a look at my Switch home screen. This is my real Switch, which is kind of cool. Yeah. Yeah. Can y'all hear me okay? Just say yes in the chat or something if you can. You can look at my cute avatar. Actually, it's probably not on the screen anymore. All right, cool. Yay. Hello, everyone. I know the stream's not officially supposed to start for a few minutes, so I'm gonna let it go for a bit. I guess I could talk about why I'm doing this. Biggest reason is I've wanted to stream for a while, but my computer is kind of old and can't handle it. Hello, everyone. So many people are coming in. Nice. Yeah, so I tried to stream once a long time ago and it didn't work. So now that the game is on a console, I can run it through the record box that I have, and my computer can actually handle it. So, very exciting development backstory right there. I'm gonna probably... I guess let your friends who have Nintendo Switches in North America know. We are not releasing in any other regions yet, because I don't have the game localized for any other regions yet, but I'm working on it. One of the things that we actually did in one of the recent updates was reconfigure all the text in the game so that it could be localized. Like, you could set a language and it will bring up an entirely different set of strings, but there's no other languages in right now, so hopefully it doesn't seem that different except when it bugs out and maybe can't find a string of text, but I think I've gotten rid of all of them by the next patch. We'll see. Anyway, it's gonna type some stuff. Oh, I'm glad the title screen gets you emotional again. It really means a lot to me that this game is connected with so many people, especially when it just started out as my angsty art project. Anyways, I figured I'd kind of just show off the game and show that it works. On the Switch, it's pretty much exactly the same as on PC, though it has Rumble, which is kind of cool. And, you know, kind of talk about whatever comes to mind. If you all have any questions, I've never actually gotten to do something like this, I feel like, since the game has been out for a while. And I figure that most people who are watching this probably played the game before. So we can talk about spoilery things. And without the context, spoilery things are probably fine, because, you know, this game is a bit hard to spoil if you don't have all the pieces already. Anyways, it's 9 o'clock. We got like 12 people watching. That's pretty cool. I think I'll just start a new game. Let's go for it. Alright, I'm gonna have to try really hard not to look at my monitor and just look at the game. Let's adjust the options again. Music, we'll put it at like 25. Sound effects 50. I'm gonna do the game speed slower because I feel like it might help me show off cool stuff better. When we get to the difficulty select, I'm gonna set it to hard so it doesn't look like I'm just breezing through the game. Yeah, let's begin. So this intro cutscene literally is one of the first things I made in the game. Oh, not this part. The text input part was later. Uh, um, but yeah, the cutscene that comes right after this, I'm going to be boring and name them Lucah. We're going to go canon here. The cutscene that comes right after this was one of the first things I made for the game after we had all the like combat and stuff in, and it was just so that I could give some sort of narrative context to a roguelike demo, which is like the very first demo I released in September 2016. Yeah. All right, we're getting started. Hello, people are still coming in. There's so many. Thank you all for coming. Yeah, so I made this thing, this intro dream, really early on, and the only real changes that I made was I made some of the effects a bit better, and I cut down a lot of the text. It was like twice as long initially, and you know what? That was a good choice. It was too much to start the game on. It maybe even is still too much to start the game on, especially when we were trying to like demo the game at events and stuff. But you know, I like it, and I also kind of like how you can tell how pretty much everything about the game got better as we kept developing it. The writing, the cutscene art, all that stuff. I think it's kind of cool. I could have gone back and revised it, but the game probably wouldn't be out if I did that. So, anyways, yeah. Ask questions if you have them. I've played this game so many times I could probably play it with my eyes closed. So anyways, as you can see in this first scene, pretty much everything's the same. The button is different because it's mapped to the Switch controller right now. I'm just playing on 2 Joy-Cons. I am a weirdo who likes playing the Joy-Cons because it means I can put my hands where, you know, totally far apart from each other or something. Wow, so many people. Thank you. Yeah, so let's heal and let's go. Yeah, we let Lucah rest for a little bit. So anyways, this tutorial section, maybe unsurprisingly, was not one of the first things we made. Though it was close. I think by like early 2017, I had turned like the roguelike demo, which this game wasn't really ever supposed to be a roguelike. It was just the best way to show off the combat system I had made. By early 2017, I wanted to string together a few levels to show to publishers. So I actually made the forest level that starts track 1 first to kind of get a feeling of what a simple like level or dungeon in Lucah meant. And then we made this tutorial. At this point, the project was literally just myself and Nico, our composer. He was the first one to come on because he and I have known each other for a long time. We used to make music together. And then I started making video games, and he started making music around the same time. I didn't even rewind, I'm so sorry. Anyways, you'll notice there's no tutorial videos showing here. That's because of a hardware limitation of the Switch. It's fine. The videos, I think, are still in the PC version. It'll be okay. I think people will learn how to play this fine. Anyways, we just got the familiar. That familiar cutscene, like meeting the familiar, was added so late. I think it was like a playtester feedback, or Kev, our producer, had the idea of kind of having a little interaction when you meet the familiar. Anyways, I should probably show off what these mechanics are. I'm going to dodge around. If you hold the dodge button, you can sprint. And I remember an early playtester wondering what the point of the sprint was, if it used stamina and didn't give you vulnerability frames. But I sprint all the time, mostly just because when I play this game, it's mostly for debugging, and I just want to get through as fast as possible. But I think it's cool. It's one of my favorite animations in the game. I like that I kind of gave Lucah the ability to ninja run. If Lucah's sprite actually had the hands that they have, I imagine they would be behind them. Because, you know, Lucah's very anime like that. I have some questions. I forgot to look at the chat. CDI Gannon, what, if anything, was like the initial idea behind Lucah? So I've been experimenting with this art style for a long time. Started doing it in like late 2014 because I wanted to make sprites for my games, but I couldn't draw. So this seemed like the easiest way, and I just kind of liked how it looked. I was really into Nuclear Throne. I wanted to make a Nuclear Throne clone, basically, top-down shooter with this art style, and then I realized that was kind of boring because I didn't just want to make a clone of the game, and none of the ideas I had really differentiated it enough. I was watching a lot of Bloodborne Let's Plays at the time, and I thought the melee combat focus would be cool, but I wanted to do it better because I tried Dark Souls and I was kind of into it, but there were a lot of things about it I didn't like. So it was like a combination of all those things that led to Lucah being formed, and then I needed to come up with a story for it, and I was just like, well, there are a lot of things on my mind about like religious self-identity and mental health and whatever, so I'll just kind of throw it all in and see what sticks. It was a much more organic process than I'd be willing to admit. I would like to say masterminded a lot of it, but I kind of really didn't. But I think it turned out okay. Save Complete asks, are there going to be any exclusive features to the Switch version of Lucah? And I mean, besides console-specific features like the Switch's HD Rumble, this game is exactly the same as the PC version. I want to keep it that way because I know not everyone lives in the United States or has a Switch, and I want to give you the same game anyway, especially because it already came out. So yeah, I'm going to do my best to make sure all versions of the game are at feature and content parity. Sir Laguna, wait, the familiar was with a dead body that turned into a monster after it left it. The lore, yeah, I think that's kind of cool. If you want to do some more detective work, try to recognize what sprite is being used for that dead body. It is something that you might be familiar with. And I totally stole the idea from Silent Hill too. Some people might know what part I'm talking about once they realize what the sprite is. Lucah Naruto runs. Yeah, I guess so. Only when you're sprinting though. The regular run is kind of not that. Yeah. Anyways, I'm trying to actually beat the Harbinger. I want to imagine it's not canon. But to beat the Harbinger, but you know, it's too much fun. One of my favorite things about this is that even though you can't parry, you can pretty easily break the Harbinger by just doing a really confident like dash attack or like a heavy finisher or something right as it's about to attack you. So anyways, yeah, Lucah does have the power of God in anime on their side. I mean, probably not God, because that would probably go against a lot of what the game's about. But yeah, Lucah's probably into anime. Lucah's probably more into anime than I am. I've only seen like 5 anime. Yeah, there's an object on the side of the Harbinger's arena. That arena kind of shows up in different variations throughout the game, so if you missed it there, you could probably see it in other spots. I think I use it as the base of the Depths 3 fight. Or, sorry, by that I mean not Depths 3. You know, the final part of the Depths before you wake up with Lily there. Yeah. So I'm going to go hard for the difficulty, because it'll be a cakewalk for me otherwise. So yeah, save complete. Did you write the lyrics in the arena to fit the Mark Track's melody? I don't think so. I can't quite remember, but I think the writing came before the track. Or no, now I'm starting to doubt myself. I think Nico maybe did have that track made before, and they probably inspired each other. I don't have any specific melody in mind for the words. I'm not that smart, but you can try if you want. Anyways, this is the first NPC I ever wrote. He's dead. It really shows the the tone of this game. Anyways, I'm gonna go with my normal setup for this part now that I can change things. I usually go Arrow Luna Burst as my long range, and then Luna Arrow Impulse as my close range for the start of the game. Yeah. The first moment in this game, this is Drool Spout. First moment in this game that made me immediately go, "Oh my god, this is so cool!" is when the really flowy sprite when the Harbinger rushes you. Yeah, I feel like I really started to believe in the game's premise when I put together the Harbinger fight, and that was like before even I made any levels. I made a few enemies and then the Harbinger to really see if I could like push the game's combat system. And when it was fun, I was like, "All right, I'm making this into a full game." Um, Porach asks, are you still planning on doing that DLC? Yes. I feel like I should probably explain. So I was working on the Descent DLC, first of all, which is kind of like Lucah's equivalent of Bloody Palace from Devil May Cry or Angel Slayer in Bayonetta, which I stole the name for the demo. Don't tell anyone. I'm going to do some leveling up while I talk about this. Then the game did not sell as well as I thought it would, even being pessimistic, which was unfortunate. And I had to pick up some jobs, and the DLC that I was working on kind of had to get sidetracked. When we got the chance to port to the Switch, I decided to prioritize that over developing the DLC. Even though the DLC was like 90% done, and it still is about 90% done, just for survival, because we thought this would probably make the most economic sense for us. And then once everyone loves Lucah because of the Switch version, we'll release the DLC to a ton of people, and it'll be good. It's really long. It'll probably take you like a couple hours to beat. And it has one of the missing sacraments in it, and it focuses on a character that we haven't really seen much of in the game, but is kind of always there. So I'm excited about that. Wow, I got really behind on the questions. Hold on. What's my personal favorite part of the game, either from its development or playing wise, from CDI Gannon? Favorite part, probably like conceptually into play, is the entire Christian 3 fight, especially the taunt tutorial, because I felt like a genius when I figured that out. And also because I'm really proud of the Christian's AI for that fight, and I think it's a lot of fun and really hard, but in a good way. Development-wise, honestly, was just coming up with all the combat stuff and like putting in all the different abilities, because that's basically why I started making the game. I wanted to make a really cool action game. I was playing a lot of action games, and I was like, I think there's a lot that you can do with this genre that people aren't necessarily doing. Although Nier Automata came out while I was making this game and basically did everything that I thought action games could do better. But then, it was just like, all right, well, I'm going to do Nier Automata type stuff, but even better. So whether I succeeded or not is probably up to you. So yeah, that's my favorite development-wise. About the long text sections, were you afraid that the players are going to be confused or get bored by those? Yes, kinda. Oh, sorry, that was by Sir Laguna. Yes, but that's why they show up at the beginning of New Game Plus, because I figure if you're playing New Game Plus, you are pretty invested. And also, I think starting with Sacrament 1, which is, I like Sacrament 4 the most, but I think Sacrament 1 is the best one. So starting with that one, I figured was the safest bet, as well as combining that with it being the only, or the start of New Game Plus. I guess the endings with like some of the smaller sacraments kind of count, but I don't really count them because they're so short. Mr. Game Nuke, what is your favorite mantra familiar in the game? My favorite mantra is Foss, just because of its cool charge attack, which is basically the Virgil swords. And I realized I didn't have Perceptive on. Oh well. My favorite familiar is probably Aura, because it's kind of the ability. It's something I think that was in like Binding of Isaac that I thought was really cool, where you like throw out a damaging aura. So I kind of adapted it, and I think it has some interesting strategic uses that aren't immediately obvious, like using it to extend witch time and things like that. Anyways, Nico. Hi, Nico. Nico's the composer for the game. Glad that he's on the stream, especially because it is very late where he is. Thank you for joining us. The stream is labeled Danish. Will you be supplying subtitles? Sorry about that. I don't know why it's labeled Danish. I'll try to fix that if I stream again. Joel Spout, you are a genius for that taunt introduction. Thank you. I should be humble, but I am very proud of that part. Sir Laguna, don't you think the Healing Familiar breaks the game? Yes, and it kind of does by design. I wanted the Heal Familiar to be sort of a difficulty modifier in the same way the assists were, thinking that, you know, from like the character action game tradition of things like Devil May Cry and Bayonetta, they have healing items, but players generally don't use them, at least when you're trying to do like kind of more serious play. I guess that didn't quite translate though, and that's okay. Recently, I, in an update, made the Heal Familiar a bit worse in that it doesn't full heal you. Or, I mean, it does full heal you if you're at like min health, but after that, I think it's like at 10 HP it heals. So it's not as immediately useful for tanky builds, which is kind of what it was most broken in. Anyways, that's my thinking about that. It's still good, because I still want people to be able to finish the game if they need the help. Same with the Aether mantra, by the way. Aether is totally meant to be a help you get through and learn New Game Plus sort of thing. And I didn't necessarily intend it to be the mantra that you stick with, because I was hoping, you know, once you got more familiar with the game, you want to get creative, explore all the movesets, kind of discover the actual broken mantras, which are Bios and Erebus, and a little bit of Foss. I'm going to get Adaptive, because I think it's a really cool virtue that a lot of people don't necessarily know how to use. This is the thing from Neo, where if you do a thing at the end of your attack, you can recover stamina. In this case, it's the mantra switch, which I think is fun, and you can make some really long combos with it. Anyways, Save Complete says, not a question, but really happy about the rewind buff. I was just thinking Bluffy. I agree, Bluffy. I held out on that for a long time, then I realized people don't really like using rewinds generally, so I was like, well, let's give them more incentive. Sir Laguna, thank you about liking the text section. Sayori Cake, hi Colin, congrats on the Switch release. Thank you. Thank you, Sayori. We worked hard on it, and I'm hoping I can bring it to more consoles and more regions, but I gotta get some localization deals first, probably. Save Complete, at me less than 3. Is there any one non-Lucah song you listened to the most during development? There were a few. I mean, Run Away With Me is probably the most obvious. That's like my favorite song, besides Comforting Sounds, which is not referenced in this game, but it is a game I made. He uses that song in its background, and that was like the first game I ever made that I was like really, really proud of. Yeah, so Run Away With Me is a very special song for me, and that's why the last chapter is named after it, and it's a very optimistic and poppy song compared to a lot of the rest of the soundtrack, or at least if you want to consider like the track list of the game. And that's intentional because the ending's supposed to be good. So yeah, I'm getting into a big cluster here. Yeah, so that's probably it. Towards the end of development, there were some other songs that showed up on my playlist a lot. Lithaean, which is also one of the tracks I listen to a lot. That's a Catatonia song, doom metal. I think sounds really cool. Rise and Shine by the Cardigans got me through the end of development because it's a very high tempo and fun song. And it was very summery, and I was finishing the game in July of 2018. If I think any more, I'll let you know. CDI Ganon, look, you put it on more consoles, you're gonna make me buy it some more. Thank you for saying so. You do not need to buy the game multiple times, though. It's okay if you buy it once, that's fine. Drool Spout, from what you've seen, do people really not use Adaptive much? I felt like it was such a good system. I basically treat it like a core mechanic and took it off. Yeah, I mean, that's what I intended when I was developing it, but I think because it's kind of hard to learn where like the biting point is on it, like where exactly in the action you need to switch. Oh, that was a nice finish. I love when I finish with the Luna light finisher. Yeah, I think it's not necessarily as used as you might expect. Though yeah, I was hoping that people who found it and really liked it, you know, would treat it as a core mechanic, because that's basically kind of how I designed the game. A lot of the later enemies will have like bigger combo strings and stuff, and it was the expectation that you had at least some sort of stamina management to keep up with that, because if you did not at the very least upgrade your stamina, you would probably be getting battered around. Thank you, CDI again. And you did buy the Switch version too, so thank you very much. Save complete. Are there any Easter eggs or secrets you haven't seen players bump into yet? Unless we're discounting like story or interpretation details that folks haven't really caught on to, I think a lot of things have been caught. I wonder. I mean, there's a lot of people know the Mulholland Drive reference that the merchant uses, but one of the endings has an explicit reference in a line to Twin Peaks, another David Lynch thing, that I thought was really cool. I haven't really seen anyone point that out. Some people have seen like the Yume Nikki room in the game and correctly called that out because that was a very meaningful and explicit reference. But I have seen people say that, so I guess that doesn't really answer the question. Cool. Caternal also uses the adaptive for the whole game. It's very good. Yeah, Drool Spout practicing the adaptive timing. I'm really happy you did. I love when people engage with the game on that sort of level, and that's definitely what I designed the game for. Yeah, Caternal, do people have interpretations of the game they felt were cooler than what was intended? I'm going to be honest with you, yes, but I'm not going to say what they were so that you don't know what I am cribbing from fan theories and what I actually intended. I know that's a bit of a cop-out, but I got to protect myself in some way. Should I do this arena? I guess it's loaded in a bit, so I might as well. I don't want to show off everything in the game, but I'm kind of just playing the game on autopilot right now, so you'll have to forgive me. Yeah. I had a point I was going to make, but I forgot it. Save complete. Dying to know, what's the on-point summarization of the neutral end? Okay, I guess most people in here can accept hearing the neutral end thing. So I had a friend who was replaying the game last week and started Twitter DMing me, which is where all the best conversation happens, where he put together that the room you fight Messiah in at the very end of what I call ending A. I guess the fandom calls it neutral ending. So either or. It's the same room as where you fight the bad end final boss. And that has a specific significance in that I guess I don't want to spoil all of it, but he basically correctly identified who Messiah is in the game's narrative, and it is sort of a form of an explicitly named character. Not Lucah, but someone tied to Lucah. There's only like a few named characters. I should clarify it's not Christian either, so that really narrows it down. And that it is someone who went through what you do in the bad ending, and the Messiah form is sort of a direct result of that. I guess that's the vague answer that makes me feel comfortable giving enough mystery to it. Yes, I think that says enough. Paracho, I was about to ask, seems to be a lot of David Lynch references. Are there any inspirations that aren't as obvious? That's a good one. I mean, so all the like video game mechanics, like there's basically the idea for the parry system came from Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. There's all the Bayonetta mechanics that I took, like the witch time and the like teleport to an enemy move, which is also in Devil May Cry, but like in the game's code, I think I explicitly call it what it's called in Bayonetta. The Neo thing, like adaptive. I guess, what else? It's been so long, I'm not sure. I put some Mew lyrics in the game, as I guess a little nod to Comforting Sounds. The credits for ending A, or the Messiah ending, are also a reference to Comforting Sounds, the game I made. I Am Not a Machine, the name of the arcade game, was originally going to be just a port of I Am Not a Machine, my Global Game Jam game from 2015. But that was out of scope, and it probably would have been too confusing to all of a sudden have a literal twin-stick shooter. But yeah, I think that's something that folks might not pick up on. Yeah. By the way, we were neighbors at MAG, I think, 2 years ago, and I'm very happy that Lucah has taken off. Thank you, Caternal. Yeah, that MAGFest was fun, especially meeting all the people there. Polyromantic got me less than 3. Theoretically, if you got a chance to redo Lucah's development, is there anything you change about how you went through it? I don't know. That's a hard question. I guess my answer would be no. There are definitely things I could have done better, but it would have been a totally different game otherwise, and I'm very happy with how the game came out, and I'd rather look forward to what future things I do, either with Lucah or not, and learning from this one's development. So yeah. Anyways. Yeah, Caternal, I remember Noise. I think I still follow you all, and I kickstarted the new expansion. Congrats on that. Okay, Polyromantic, also double posting here. What are some other indie devs and games you've been excited about lately? It's funny because there are ones, but on the spot I can't quite say any. If you haven't played Heather Flowers' Extreme Meat Punks Forever, you should play it because it's good. It came out last year. And also, Lucah fans should play it for reasons that I can't disclose. That's what I'll say for now. Let's see. I need to catch up on the chat while this cutscene's going. Caternal, thank you for spending time to get better at the game. Yeah. I'm glad that you think Lucah is an inspiration. It definitely has caught more eyes than I probably expected at first. And like I said, I'm happy that so many people love it so much. The fact that we've had like 100%, 99% positive Steam reviews kind of blows my mind. I know we don't have that many, but yeah, I kind of expected this to be a 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 game for most people, and it turns out it's much more than that. So thank you all. Yeah, I'm glad folks have played Meat Punks. Cool. Riffing off of Anne's question, are there any interactions between characters they wanted to have but didn't make the full release cut? Um, yes, and instead of expanding upon that, well, I guess there's one thing because this won't happen. But I wanted the end of Lucah, Lucah's true end, to be Christian and Lucah fighting out of the darkness together. I did not have the time for that. I don't know why I'm resetting for the sci-fi. I should just lose. I wanted that to be the true end, and it would be cool. Then I realized it wasn't 100% thematically appropriate, and it was too much work, so I rewrote the ending. A lot of the other stuff I wanted to do will probably show up in Christian's side game, which is only in the like real vague design stage, but that's probably what I'll be working on a bit after we release the Descent. And I want to do a lot more stuff with the other marked Sarah, Lily, Michael. They'll all interact with Christian. I think it'll be cool. I'll give them a bit more character, or at least that's what's planned. And the ending will be really nice. And I think it's something that folks have wanted even out of Lucah's ending. And it will ultimately wrap up this story. If I return to Lucah's world or anything related after the Christian side story, it's probably not going to be with these characters and things, which will be sad, but it will be good closure. Yes. That initial Messiah fight still makes me anxious. Good, but also I'm sorry, because I know being anxious is not great. Although that's kind of why I made the game, so to share this and help folks fight through it and learn to get that strength, you know. Akira Assassin, thank you so much for saying you want to design gameplay as good as Lucah's. I've played a bunch of your games and I think they're great. I mean, if you're not already there, I feel like you should give yourself more credit. You probably are. But yeah, I would love to see what you do in the future. Oh yes, Nico's pointing out we did have dialogue sounds before, like actual like kind of like talk sounds, sort of like, you know, other video games do, depending on the characters. But it was too much work to make them work well, and it had to get cut in the end. Nico, if you haven't shared them yet, you can if you want. I remember that was kind of in the plans. Question, save complete. Is Christopher from Sacrament 1 and Christopher from Sacrament 4 one and the same? Kinda. Christopher is not a character that shows up in Lucah. It's not Christian to, unfortunately, confuse some of those fan theories. I realize that choosing that name was probably confusing. I'm sorry. Those names that come up at the end of Sacrament 4 are real people I know and wanted to send that message to. And that's all I'll say about that. Banjo-Kazooie dialogue sounds kinda, yeah, but just not as goofy. Yeah, like Nico said, everyone talked like aliens who swallowed stairs. Or sitars, not stairs. Sorry, I can't read. Oh hey, it's the merchant. Let's get the familiar garden. That'll be good. And the prayer bead. Prayer beads are so important to everyone. You should buy them and get them wherever you see them. Virtues are the best thing you can do to improve your gameplay. Having a good set of virtues will help you way more than having a high level. That's why the virtue that reduces all your stats and increases your VP by 20 is my favorite, because it makes the game so much more fun, in my opinion, at least. I'm going to add Enraged. That's about it, though. I'm doing a pretty boring standard build. Yes. Nico, can't remember if we had a conversation about sharing them or if I dreamt it. Don't worry, you didn't dream it unless we both dreamt it, but you know, that'd be very appropriate for the game. Yeah, cute dialogue sounds are good. I don't think cute dialogue sounds would have worked for Lucah. Dialogue sounds in general probably would have. But anyways, like I said, I don't want to dwell on what could have been because I really like what Lucah eventually became. Everything that I could have been, I can just work on for either my next projects or new Lucah stuff. I do have a vision of Lucah 2 being a much bigger project that's like 3D and, like a cool art style that's not necessarily the same one because it wouldn't really work in 3D, but, kind of has some similar ideas like high contrast, a lot of dark shadows. I want there to be characters with interactions and maybe some voice acting. I think that would be a cool goal. But this game is probably not even starting development for another 10 years or so, if I'm lucky. Eternal asks, how painful was the process of porting the game to Switch? Thankfully, not very. Usually the thing that bogs down console releases. So a bit of background. We basically got in contact with Nintendo at GDC 2018, a few months before the game came out, to talk about porting. I'm going to go get Gaia because it's one of my favorite early game mantras. We started talking with them. Kev, our producer, basically went up to a rep, showed them one of our trailers, and was like, can we talk? And then we got an appointment. We let them play the first 2 chapters of the game. They really liked it. And from that point to me actually getting the dev kit took like 9 months. And there were, some causes to that. I was like working while also like working quote unquote real jobs while also working on the game. So I didn't necessarily have time to finish the game and work on the console version, things like that. We're also talking to Sony. I don't have any news for a PS4 version, but I want it to happen, and maybe an Xbox version if we can, but I'm not sure that'll be totally worth it. But yeah, it's a lot of like just getting your paperwork in order and trying to get things from people who also work, long, tiring jobs. So once I actually got the dev kit, it took me about a couple weeks to get the game running on it, like converting like the controls and such. I'm gonna put shock on the Gaia, that'll be fun. And this looks like a fun setup, let's go with it. Yeah, we got the game running on the dev kit in just a few weeks. It took about a couple months worth of polishing to make sure everything was okay and testing. This is also while I'm working a full-time job, so it's not like we're working 40 hours a week on the game. It's more like 5 or 6, if we're lucky. I gotta rewind, that was not a hit. But yeah, thankfully Lucah is not a very like tech-heavy game. So it really was like minimal effort to get it working well. I think the only things I really needed to change up were how the game handled saving to make it a bit more optimized, and that was work that could also be used in the PC version, so it worked out for everyone. So yeah, I spent a lot of time on that simple question, sorry. The virtues are really fun. Are there any virtues you couldn't include? Thankfully, I think I got most of the ones I wanted. I can't think of any off the top of my head that I couldn't include. There were some that changed partway through development. Like originally Enraged, like increased your power output depending on how much damage you had taken. So like the lower your health, the more damage you'd be doing. But I thought it kind of introduced a sort of boring and contradictory with the game's themes playstyle of like trying to be like intentionally taking damage, and that kind of didn't go with my ethos. So that's why I changed to what I think is like the much more in line with how I want the game to be, Enraged, where it encourages the perfect dodges and stuff like that. Rule spout. I have a lot to ask because a lot of games you point out as inspirations like Bayonetta make a big deal of giving names to all the enemy types. Do you have like internal names you gave to story nightmares during development? Yes, and they're all bad. Like this one I'm fighting right now, I call it because it's like the upgraded version of like those projectile enemies you see in the tutorial. I called those tutorial enemies Bleck because I thought they looked gross. So that's like a sound you make when you see something gross. And this one's an armored Bleck. Um, Obviously, they're bad names, that's why I don't show them anywhere. But there used to be a lock-on in the game that would show the name of the enemy along with the HP, but the only part of that remains, because I just added an auto-aim, is the HP bar for bosses, and they have real names. So yeah. What's my favorite style in DMC3? Royal Guard. I really like the feeling of doing those perfect Royal Guards and then doing the Royal Guard release. It's really cool, especially when you're doing like the virtual fights and stuff like that. Sorry, that was an answer for Polyromantic. Gaia's God tier. Yes, it is. Hi, Visager. Hi, Josie. How you doing? Thanks for coming to the stream. CDI Ganon, I think he said something akin to this earlier in the stream, but what you consider the truly most broken, powerful combos? I mean, disregarding like the intentionally sort of overpowered stuff like Aether and Heal Mantra, the Witch Time Virtue and oh, that was a cool combo. Sorry, I can still get entertained by my own playing, which is a sign that I did something right with the game, I think. Sorry, yeah, the Witch Time Mantra and anything that deals a lot of hits really quick, like the Rapid Familiar and the Aura Familiar are really good. BIOS is really good with anything, but especially Anxious, the virtue that gives you constant charge regen, because it means that you can just buff after every single attack you do, so you can always keep the level 3. And what's one more good one? Erebos? Oh no, I like to do Aqua to get like really long break times on enemies. And then switch over to a paradigm with Erebos in it somewhere, and then just like go to town. Especially if you taunt them right before, you could probably get an enemy in like one combo with that. Yes, not a virtue, but we joked about having a familiar that transform enemies into random other enemies. Yeah, that would have been fun. Maybe it would work better in a roguelike-y type game, but yeah, I like the idea, Nico. Maybe I should patch that in. Real Guard Gang, yeah. Save complete question. During your time working on Lucah, did you ever experience any dreams that resolve technical or narrative problems? Not a dream, but the idea for the familiar came to me while I was in the shower, because I wanted to figure out something to do while you were recharging stamina, and it kind of just made sense to have like that whole loop be there with something that was kind of external to you. It also explains why you can do things while you're recovering stamina. It just like answered a lot of questions or challenges that I had when I was coming up with the initial system. So yeah, and I think also a lot of the true end was kind of inspired by like the true end for the game originally was going to be much more cinematic and big and more like AAA game style like ending, and obviously I realized I didn't have the budget or time for it. So a lot of what it became was kind of just these like different ideas that were the culmination of like these like half visions and stuff that I had either while running or being in the shower, or anything that could kind of get my like critical mind off of the game, which is not quite dreaming, but it's close. Yes. Correct. I'm very big into the idea of a glossary written by Lucah, and half the enemies are just called Black. That's probably what it would be. These enemies that are running at me right now, they're called Vicious in the game's code, because they're supposed to be like the first enemy that really tries to kill you. And these big guys with the like sword shields, I call them sloth things because they move slow. Those are just some examples. Maybe as I think of more fun ones, I'll bring that up. I still want to make like a like developer like companion guide to the game once I have the DLCs out that cover everything, and maybe I'll include some behind the scenes like enemy names, stuff like that. Visitor says, congrats to me, Miko, and Kevin again on the release. Thank you so much. Drillspad, one of my paradigms for All New Game Plus was Gaia Light Erebus Heavy. It just does so much damage. I didn't even think of that one. But yeah, Gaia and Erebus is a cool combo because it has like the higher break chance and then the higher break damage. It's good. Nice. CD again. I gotta sleep now. Oh, have a good one. Thank you for joining us. Sleep well and all that. I might do another one of these later this week, so keep your eye out. I'll try to do it earlier in the night too, now that I don't have to set up work. I had to like go dig up my... Oh no, I died for the first time. That's pretty good for kind of playing the game without paying attention though, so... anyways. I guess I can level up. Thank you everyone, I finally got to press F to pay respects. What should I go for? I'll level up a health because I feel bad for health. I like never level up health. Even though it is, like, if you level up health, like, at least, like, 5 times, nothing in New Game will ever kill you unless you're really trying to let it. But yeah. Oh, I have Driven in my level up. Driven is one of the best virtues, I feel like. I felt bad giving it away in the level up menu pretty easily. But anyways. So yeah. I think I'm caught up on chat. I just see all the Fs. Thank you, everyone. You might have noticed that I got in the train and my key items disappeared. That is because the key item display is tied to whatever map the menu will show you, like based on the area of the game you're in. And the train is considered in a like unrecognized area because there's no map for it. So that's why the key items disappear. It was noted in development and I considered it a shippable. Maybe it's something I would fix, but it's like so low priority. That's basically game dev for you. You notice things about your game that are maybe flaws and you're like, I guess we'll leave it. So anyways, yeah, the interior of all trains exists in a void. I wanted to add like train tracks that were going by, kind of like the elevator sequences. And I probably could go back in and do that relatively easily for the train, but I think Void Train kind of fits with the style of the game and this dungeon better. Whenever I see people streaming this game for the first time, usually they have some difficulty with this dungeon, and it used to be a lot worse when there was like no map while the game was still in development, and some of the layout was a bit different and a bit more open. I changed it a bit to be a bit more directed by moving like where the stairs were and things like that, and some of the key items. But my thinking for this level, and I'm not totally sure I succeeded with it, but I'm still like happy where it ended up, was like the forest was supposed to kind of teach you the basics and then test how you could handle basic enemy encounters. That's why the nest is kind of just like 2 smaller enemies as a boss that were still like slightly more difficult, but not that difficult in the grand scheme of things. And then the Sanctum kind of introduces some story stuff, so it's more to break up the action and kind of introduce some central conflicts and themes in the game. The Metro was going to be like if you're past this point, it's past where the demo ends, you're like in it to win it, right? So I was going to really test like your ability to engage with like the game's exploration and you know, being able to manage your health and stuff and knowing when to go back to checkpoints, things like that. It might be a bit too hard and dense still, and that kind of is reflected by the rest of the levels not being nearly as complicated. But anyways, that's kind of why Metro's the way it is. Yeah, Nico's pointing out the save point that I just got to was not there for a long time, and you would have to basically go through the whole dungeon to right before the boss to get to a save point. Which was kind of unreasonable. I'm glad. I think Nico had the idea of putting another save point in, so thank you, Nico. We'll get a bloody palace mode, but the most exciting part in Lucah DLC is visible train tracks. Maybe I'll add that in, who knows. Mr. Game Noob, Enemy Lesson 3, on the topic of enemies, what was your favorite enemy to design? If we're excluding bosses, because the bosses were kind of more my favorites, I think my favorite enemy to design is what I call Shadow Thing, which is an enemy that shows up in the second to last chapter, the one with Lily. It's like the fast sword guy who like runs at you and then does a double swipe. Just because that was like the ultimate form of like the aggro enemy, and I think those are the most interesting. And it also feels like the smartest one to fight against, in my opinion, because it like actually like tracks you kind of decently, and it has like both an offensive option and some like dodging type moves. You know, it feels like you're fighting another you. At least, you know, as much as like the non-boss enemies are, because I guess like Prototype and Christian kind of are like other yous, but they're bosses, so I don't count it. Yeah, Nico got very frustrated with that section. But anyways, yeah, it is rough, but oh, bye safely, or no, bye Josie, bye Visager. I can't tell who's leaving. I'm sorry. I'm really bad at keeping up with the chat. Thank you everyone who's come in, and thank you all who are here. Anyways, no longer want to pet the familiars. Oh, Nico, you gotta stop telling people these things. We gotta keep that secret. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, we're at the other save point. I haven't even used the lever yet. I'm gonna use the lever just to get to the secret section of this level. Anyways. Yeah, Jewel Spout likes that enemy because it ruins your run up the tower. Yeah, I think it's a fairly difficult enemy to fight, especially on New Game Plus. Sometimes even I think it's unfair, just because of the way that it tracks is really hard to dodge. But you know, if every enemy was equal amounts of fair, then the game would be really boring towards the end. Sorry. Sorry, Bluffy. I couldn't tell who was leaving. Don't sweat. You're still here. I didn't Thanos snap anyone. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm going to where the Witch Time virtue is. I'm not going to use it though. Even though I'm really proud of it and I think it's cool. I spent a good. I was at a game show showing off Lucah, and I had a bunch of hours to kill at an airport on the way home, and I was like, I'm finally going to do it. I'm going to add the Witch Time virtue. And I did, and I thought it was going to take a lot longer than it did, but because of the way I handled the enemy behaviors and stuff, I was able to slow them down relatively easily. So I felt like a genius, and it was a lot of fun. So yeah, and of course I had to have the Witch Time, because this game is pretty much directly inspired by Bayonetta and me trying to pure platinum it. So yeah, anyways. These monsters, they seem pretty bad for you, worse than a lot of the ones I've seen recently. What keeps you going? Being able to do cool combos, that's what keeps me going. I'm a very show-offy Lucah. I'm playing a Lucah that's already been through New Game Plus a bunch of times and knows how to be beautiful. So that's my answer. Lucah on Dreamcast would be awesome. The Dreamcast can probably handle it, right? I would need to change it to not be widescreen, unless it can do widescreen. I didn't think so though. So yeah, I wanna play Lucah on a PS1 emulator running on a Dreamcast, because I guess one of my like not as big influences, but I guess it's kind of influenced everyone who's seen it, is LSD Dream Emulator. And I played that game for the first time at Nico's house on his Dreamcast, which was running a PS1 emulator. But something was wrong with the emulator or the ROM, and it was a bit corrupted. But I kind of just thought that was the game because it's supposed to be weird. Oh, I did add the Witch Time. Oops. I should take that off. Yeah, maybe we can make Dreamcast Lucah happen. I want it to be like slightly corrupted though, and some of the cutscenes don't appear correctly, because that's what happened with the LSD Dream Emulator. I'm not gonna get that. I gotta give some mystery to whoever's here who hasn't played the game. Yeah, the game looked all glitched out and weird. It looked like how Lucah looks currently. So a glitched out Lucah would be pretty cool. Oh yeah, I got the virtue that kills enemies quicker. This is one of my least favorite virtues that I put in, but I recognize why it's good. I just don't like it because it gets in the way of me being able to style on enemies. Oh hey! Is that Kev? Anyways. Shallot Sun. I like Pierce a lot. It was very hard to balance Pierce though, because I wanted Pierce to feel different from Burst, because they kind of have a similar action, and its ability to hit multiple enemies isn't necessarily like that useful. But by moving around the damage numbers to make it a bit more like higher chance to break and stuff, I thought that was a cool little compromise, and it's a lot of fun to use with like Gaia and stuff like that. Anyways, yeah, a lot of the backgrounds wouldn't render in Nico's version of LSD Dream Emulator, so it kind of did look like Lucah. Like the sky would just be all black when it was supposed to be a normal sky. That was a lot of fun. So yeah. It is... So I guess we've been here for about an hour. I should probably log off soon, but I think what I'll do is I'll stop playing around. I only just did that just to get this barrier to disappear. Maybe let's go through the Christian one fight, and we can pick this up on Wednesday, maybe. So... You have to change the disc every time you witch time. That'd be kind of fun. Sunboy allowed. Yeah, we're gonna let Sunboy in here. I'm kind of just doing random level ups. Don't watch this trying to get some cool strategies or whatever. Why did I just get Driven? Driven's really good. It lets you basically extend the length of any break by recharging your charge to give you some of that familiar attacks. Hitting enemies while in break time, unless you hit damage cap, will extend their the time that they're broken a little bit. So you could like theoretically like hit them with a couple of burst shots while your hold action like charge attack goes. So anyways, we have this little train cutscene. Oh, we got some questions again. If it's not spoilery to answer, what do the different mantra colors symbolize? Since one memory mentions gold being hero's color. That was by Reverie. To be honest, most of the mantras don't have any special like story significance. I just thought it was cool to have them be sort of like elemental based, so the color is kind of based on whatever, element it might be. I think the only ones that have story significance are, Luna and Soul for obvious reasons if you played the game. And Soul kind of ties to that memory. I think it says a lot about where Christian thinks he is and where he actually is and kind of what happens to him as you get through the game. What else? BIOS has the tiniest bit of significance, even though none of the mark use it. I think it's important to note where it spawns and kind of, that it's like the mantra of life or whatever. And Aether, which, is the mantra that's being used by the bad end in the bad end, and then you get it, and it's also the mantra that the true final boss uses. It has a very specific significance in both its color and its gameplay function. So yeah. Sienna asks, I've noticed a lot of similarities between Lucah and Nier. What's your favorite Nier track? That took a turn I did not expect. There are some ones that I'm not sure what exactly is my favorite, but I can probably list some that I like a lot. I like Heine's theme, specifically the Escape version. I like both of the like metal themed ones from year 1 and 2. So Wretched Automatons and I forget the one from year 1. I really like the track that plays when you're running to Shadow Lord's castle in year 1, and also the Shadow Lord theme itself. And I guess for Nier Automata, my favorite is definitely A Beautiful Song. When I first saw that E3 demo for Nier Automata, I was originally kind of sus about the game. Thought, like, you know, a sequel might be really bad, especially with like Platinum handling it, who's kind of like not really known for making like heady games like Nier. But I saw that trailer with the opera boss fight in E3 2016, and I was like, oh, they got it. And they did got it, so that was good. Let's see. Driven is amazing for a familiar focus build. Yes, it is. Also for being able to do charge attacks right after you break an enemy. Also good. So I just broke this boss just by like overpowering them. That's kind of cool. I'm gonna try to actually parry them this time. I keep going too early. Dang it. That's okay. I just don't want to actually die in this fight. This would be bad. Oh, you might have noticed, I think, did I use a heal earlier? Well, it got rewinded because the rewinds do that now. Yeah. Kev says, can you speak about the film, television, other art influences here if you haven't already? What are some influences I haven't talked about yet? I mean, I mentioned like David Lynch stuff. I don't think the game is Lynchian per se, but you know, obviously I like it, and I like certain like aspects of Lynch's storytelling that I adapt here. But this game doesn't have enough mundane elements to be considered part of that canon, I think. God, I guess Neon Genesis Evangelion in like the like overt use of religious symbolism that doesn't quite mean much. Or in Lucah's case, it means something, but the true story isn't the religious stuff. That's kind of, and like that hits you over the head, but it hits you over the head because it's not really what the game is trying to critique. Yeah. I don't know. If I think of anything else, I'll let you know. Good question, Kev. Hi, Joss. How you doing? Joss helped me figure out how to make the game look good back when it was an old prototype, and I still very much appreciate it. Save complete question. Did you ever consider putting in loading screen messages? I did, especially because this game started out as a Nuclear Throne clone, which I like how that game used loading screen messages for both like lore stuff and for teaching you different things about the game system. I guess I'm gonna stay with this style. But Lucah's loading times were so short that I didn't really need them. Twin Peaks: The Return, yeah. I mean, the ending of Twin Peaks: The Return basically inspired how Lucah's endings work with each other. So that's cool. One of the endings has a Twin Peaks original series reference. But I really like the end of The Return, and it definitely influenced how Lucah's endings work, to clarify that part. Alright, so we're going to fight Christian. I think I'm just going to challenge myself. We're going to do all Luna Burst. We're just going to be Canon Lucah against Christian, and we'll see how that goes. Yeah, usually I can beat Christian pretty easily because it's pretty easy to get him in a parry lock by just letting him run at you and then parrying the jump attack. So you made it out too. I was really proud of this scene when I first made it. It was kind of like the first big scene I wrote, especially because it's the rival introduction. And I remember sharing it and people being like, "Oh, this is good," and that's when I like finally got a bit more confidence in like writing a story for this game. um, yeah. Uh, Sienna, yeah. Lucah kind of started as a Nuclear Throne clone. If you play my Global Game Jam game, I'm Not Machine, which the arcade game, and this is named after. Oh, I missed the first parry. God dang it! I'm gonna rewind. I'm gonna try to just get the parry. There we go. That was really petty of me. Oh, he kind of punished me for it anyway. Whatever. Yeah, started as a Nuclear Throne clone because I really liked it, and I wanted to make a twin-stick shooter, but with my own unique style. But it wasn't interesting enough, so turned it into this game. Alright, so maybe I should pay attention to the Christian fight. I forget that I'm on hard. Oh, god dang it. I used to be really good at this game. I could like beat it all on challenge. I don't think I could do that now. That's okay though. Developers don't need to be good at their own games. I guess also I'm challenging myself to do a Luna burst style. Although I'm still switching to use adaptive. Alright, come on. Watch out for laser. I'm still so proud of laser. It's one of my favorite familiars, just design-wise. I like the laser effect I made, and it's just using like simple geometries. I could have affected it up a bit more, but it was exactly what it needed to be, and I didn't have enough time to make everything super pretty. So it's cool. All right, we beat Christian. Christian used to have this bug where if you beat him in certain states, he would start moonwalking. The bug probably still exists in some rare scenarios. But I've been trying really hard to get rid of that. If you see it again, it's non-canon. Cool. Bro, I like everyone commenting on my rewind just to style on Christian. Yeah, I'm glad people like laser. I think laser's little hands are fun, and that it uses it to like summon, rather than like having the laser just kind of appear from its face or whatever, that it seems to like call down the laser from the heavens is very appropriate. Especially if it's supposed to be like Christian's heart, you know. Um, what else are you going to use rewinds for? Yeah, I think the Christian moonwalking thing has to do with the way I set up his animation tree. Christian has the second most complicated animation tree next to Lucah. I should post screenshots of them. It's kind of fun to see. This game probably wouldn't have happened without me learning how to actually use Unity's animation system, but it worked out okay. No, you can't parry the train, unfortunately. Are there still any parts of the game that are still hard for you? The final climb in New Game Plus and the true final boss are still very difficult for me. Also, the fight with two harbingers in the climb is usually pretty hard. Space My Friend, yes, that was the Slow Dive reference. All the tracks are named after real songs. Yeah. Trying to parry the train. It is a bit after 10 my time. I want to stream again. This was fun. As you can see, the Switch version of the game is pretty much exactly the same, and it runs well. If you saw any slowdowns, that's probably just my computer trying to stream the game. But yeah, my voice is starting to get a bit sore, and I have work tomorrow, so I think I'm going to call it. If anyone has any final questions, let me know. Alright, thank you all for coming. I'll go offline now. Bye, everyone.